Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And tonight we're going to begin our winter season with the wrestling team as we've invited in the head coach and a couple of our captains. So if you join me after the break, I'll be joined in studio by head wrestling coach Duane Ritter.
What makes D3 special is the ability to participate in my team and within the broader community.
The perfect ending to a perfect season.
Being a D3 student athlete has completely expanded my life.
I learned how to lead. I really found a voice.
What time is it?
It's more about the experience rather than just a sport itself.
Without the experience of being a Division III student athlete, I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
NCAA Division III. Discover, develop, dedicate.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is head wrestling coach Duane Ritter. Welcome to the show, Duane.
Jeff, how you doing?
You've kind of been here a couple times. You've been here.
A couple times now, yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us how it's going so far in the season? Give us a little rundown.
We're hanging in there. We're coming together as a team. We're very young, as you know, this year. Starting off and on over 6, I think, of our starters out of the 10 have been freshmen throughout the season. So we're very young. We got the 2 leaders who will be joining you later, both juniors, Ben McCack and Dan Graff, doing a great job. And early on we hit 4 really top teams. I knew they were probably top 20 teams when we hit them, and they found their way there in the rankings. So our first outing was tough, but since then we've really pulled together as a team, winning the Will Able Invitational down there in the beginning of January out of 13 teams at Ursinus. We had 5 guys place All-State out of the 10 starters, and then we also I think had 7 or 8 guys place All-Conference in the ECWCs a week ago. Pulled off a nice win here with Oswego, so I think we're coming together and maturing nicely as a very young team.
Now, this year, the ECWC tournament, let's talk a little bit about that. The NCAA changed their format of how you qualify for nationals, so the ECWC tournament just really kind of becomes another tournament that you get to go up against guys and top wrestlers in our region to get some ranking points for the regional match. But why don't you talk a little bit about how that tournament has kind of changed, and then we can talk a little bit about the new format.
Yeah, it's changed in a sense that it's not the end-all to be-all. We're not gun and hoe to try and get the guys to nationals as we did in the past. The Empire's traditionally been one of the top 3 conferences in the country for wrestling, and still very competitive. This year they allowed the double entry, so we could double up and have 2 guys wrestling. So they made a little larger brackets to try and balance them out at 16. So it made for a very competitive tournament. But again, it wasn't the focus to get to nationals. So if you have guys that are a little injured, things like that, there's not the risk either. They don't have to go necessarily. They have that chance to rest that weekend if needed. But still great to give the guys an opportunity to go against top teams. 4 of which will be in our region as we go on and compete with the New England Conference now. And the others great schools, Messiah, Lycoming, Brockport, and RIT too, Serpically. Very strong team, so it's a great competition that way. It took a little of the pressure off too. One of the nice things from a coach was we didn't have to worry about that wild card meeting at the end, which it's so competitive, and so the camaraderie among the coaches was much milder too. Everyone was there, wrestling for the competition and not cutthroat.
Right, because I know I've sat in on one of those wild card meetings, and sometimes it's almost as long as the actual wrestling during the day. Because, hey, everybody's fighting for their kids and want them to go to nationals because, again, our conference is one of the top conferences in the country with some of the teams that we have and the number of All-Americans we've had throughout the years. So you think the focus at the tournament, how does that affect the regional part? Now we'll go to a 6 regions, 6 regional tournaments around the country. Top 3 place winners will go automatically. Yes. There's no wild cards there either. So it's the top 3. Boom, you go automatically. Now the size of the bracket will increase, right? They're going from.
Yeah, and that's been one of the things that's still being talked about. This is the first year we're going to a region, so there's a little controversy in the sheer number. Some of that has to do with geographical location in the West, not having the number of schools, but typically with the powerhouses at this level, 2 in Division III, Wartburg, Augsburg. I think one of the regions is down at 11 or 12 teams, whereas we're 18 competing for the exact same number of spots. From a standpoint, administratively running the tournament, I know that's forced us into a 2-day region, so we don't have guys wrestling their 7th, match of the day
Right.
to decide if they go to nationals. So unfortunately, unlike most of the other regions, we're going to be in a 2-day, so we'll wrestle Saturday and Sunday to make that happen. But I think the best thing is going to be the elimination of that wild card meeting. The wrestlers will get to, finish it out on the mat, and it won't be political. It won't come down to a vote in a coach's room and all that. So once they finish, the top 3 are going to the national championships. And I think, too, it's going to be something they'll reevaluate in future years to see necessarily how this affects, the national tournament and whether they'll shift some other schools out to the West or not, maybe to balance it up. I think, from my standpoint, if everyone was at least 16, if they're in the 14 to 16 range, be a little more equal that way. And no one would be forced into the 2-day tournament. Everyone could run the 16-man bracket. So I think hopefully we'll see how it goes this year, and hopefully we got a chance to get some guys through. With the New England, we typically do well against the New England schools. But of course we have traditional powerhouses, Ithaca and Cortland, who will be joining us up there in that region too. So.
Right. Now, in preparing for the regional tournament, how do our guys get, because of course everybody comes in, and usually in a bracket of 16 you might seed maybe the top 8 or something like that. I mean, how will they get their seedings this year? Because it's not as clear cut where you sit down in a coaches meeting and.
Yeah, now, and this with a lot of teams too within the region that we may not have saw, and we've traditionally competed with New England's, the Wesleyan, Williams, WPI. This year we'll have Western New England. We used to host our tournament, Southern Maine, coming down here. So we've saw, that regional competition where we can. Of course, we don't have matches against all 18, but there'll be common opponents. So we'll be looking at, records, overall records, performances, and then potential cross opponents. So. If our guys hit a common opponent from Williams, and then that kid beat a kid from Coast Guard maybe that we didn't see, that would be something that would be brought up in a coaches meeting for vote when we're voting on the seeds.
So now, so the coaches are still in charge of creating those seedings. That isn't going to come from, because I know you report all of our records and match scores and all that comes from the NWCA, that they compile all that. So they're still going to use that kind of, the format of a coach will say, hey, my guy.
Yeah, from what we know now, there'll probably be the tournament directors typically go through and try and do a pre-seed just to speed the process. And then we'll have a coaches meeting. And basically it'll come down to a vote. Ultimately we look at criteria, head-to-head competition, overall records, past performances in the criteria. But then it comes down to a vote potentially too. So if we're battling head-to-head with someone for, a 2 seed, ultimately it'll come down to a vote. I know one thing, we're apprehensive because we're going up to New England, so there's 4 of us Empire schools joining the traditional 14 up there. So I know with some other coaches we've wondered how that first seeding meeting will actually work out, in the voting process. But
again, a bunch of our guys in the Empire are nationally ranked. I mean, just at the ECWC alone, Cortland had like 4 or 5, Ithaca had a few, Brockport. We've got some guys that are just on the fringe. So I would have to think that's got to weigh into some of the discussions.
Yeah, that'll play into it, and of course common opponents too, even if it's out of region. And we hit someone, in an early season tournament, things like that, and have a win over that person. That can really help, elevate that seeding. Sometimes where you don't hit head-to-head, you'll use those cross opponents as an argument in the seeding process. And, our guys are doing very good, actually. Mick Ack, who we meet with a little bit, he's actually, I think, leading the Empire in wins right now. I looked at the stats today, and I think he actually leads in number of wins for our conference right now.
Okay, well that certainly bodes well for that regional tournament. Now let's go back to your lineup a little bit. You said we're kind of young. We're infusing some freshmen and some sophomores who might be coming back from some injuries. When you prepare each year going in, do you have an idea of who you think might be slotted into those things, or does it all just play itself out in the wrestling room where at practices, who beats this guy? Similar to like tennis, they have a ladder tournament, and if you can't beat number 1, you can't be number 1. So when you're formulating your lineup, how does that shake out?
Typically it's a little different too in our sport, that we don't have a standard time or some things to compare. So typically there's a wrestle-off, and some things you look at is styles. So sometimes we may have a wrestler who's really good in one position. That may make him a better opponent against other opponents, and we're looking at it. Even though he might not beat his partner in the room every day, there's times when maybe we would start him because it may be a better matchup just based off of
Right.
where he's tough, what his skill levels are, the style. You play into body, characteristics, long, leverage, short, even though they're making the same weight classes.
Yeah.
There's definitely some strategy in that when you're looking at the matchups. And typically we do have wrestle-offs for the tight spot, but then sometimes too you'll see performance. There's guys who look like national champs in the room every day, but sometimes get a little stage fright when they're up there performing,
Right.
and don't necessarily perform as well. And other guys, that don't maybe do as well in the room every day against their partners because it's hard to wrestle their teammates and get up for that, but are gamers, as we would call them, where they really get up for the big match. And are capable of pulling that big upset, in the crowd, So try and balance that too as a coach, trying to figure out, which guys are going to be best in the right moment,
Right.
For some lineup altercations. And then as we get down to the postseason, really looking at, who's going to be our best guys overall to
Right.
have our best shot at potentially qualifying for that national
Right,
tournament.
because you can only bring 10. Now, do you get to bring any alternates, or you just bring 10?
There's no alternates, and in the
Okay.
region it'll just be the 10 starters for each of the 10 weight classes.
So if somebody happens to hurt themselves or maybe doesn't get cleared for one of the days, then that's it.
And they're out. Yeah, we'll have up until the deadline set for the registration, which will probably be up until about the Wednesday or
Okay.
Thursday
Couple
before,
days before.
in case you have someone injured or switch out.
Right.
But after that point, hopefully they'll all make weight and be healthy
Right,
to
stay.
wrestle. So.
So as we go forward here, certainly who are some of the younger wrestlers in your lineup that you think, as they get to, we'll talk to Ben and Dan, when they get to that junior season, are there some guys in our lineup now that are performing where you think they can?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Sean Gillen was an ECWC Rookie of the Week. He's won a tournament already. Was in the finals at the Empire. Is really, standing out as a freshman in a tough weight class there at 165. He's really doing well. So I think he's coming together. We got a couple other freshmen too that have been battling in. One of the things with wrestling is the weight class. Unfortunately, Ben is, one of our leaders, as I said, even within the conference, and was preseason nationally ranked in the top 10. Unfortunately, we have a lot of guys that are just behind him in weight. So
Right.
we've been doing some push-ups too, asking a couple of our underclassmen there to really move up and fill some holes. They couldn't quite make it all the way below Ben to 125, so a couple of them we've pushed up to 141, 149. A couple guys there, Velastro, Kurt Rowley, they're really holding their own, wrestling up a little bit in weight classes. And then we've got Sean Hansen back too. He's been healthy. Coming back, he was exceptional, one of the top all-time winners in matches in high school. He was a 3-time state place winner in New York. He's finally, pushing up there too. Try and fill in the void at 141. So.
Right. Now, up in the heavier weights, of course, we had Chad Obzed return to our lineup, which certainly kind of, I guess you'd say, bolstered the back end, on that end. And we actually, looks like we bumped Jake Smith up to heavyweight from 97 last year, where we had a very solid year for us there. Does that bother guys if they have to move up, or
Yeah, it can be a challenge. And we had an injury up top with another freshman heavyweight coming in, Murphy, and he's developing nicely, working really hard in the room. Of course, he wasn't quite the level of Barber, who we'd lost for the season. We're trying to do what we can up top, and Greg Duvall came back after being out for a medical last year, so he's technically still a freshman. He's doing great too. Won a tournament, was third in the Empires. Has really come together great. As a first-year wrestler, really for us.
Right.
And that's changed some too. Him and Chad were kind of there at the same weight, so now they've all kind of bumped up top. And Chad moved up to fill in at 97, and Jake went ahead and made the jump up to heavyweight. He's weighing in about 210 and wrestling those 280-pound guys. But he's a very good wrestler, so he's holding his own. Hopefully by the time we get to the end of the season, he'll be a little more adjusted to wrestling those big guys. And Obzu's doing very well up top too. He's a pinner. So
yes,
he is like 20 pins on the season, about 22, 23 wins.
Results, I'm like, geez, another pin. I'm like, he just goes through the brackets.
He goes for the pin. He's a very big pinner. So, that's nice to have two in your lineup for dual meets.
Yeah.
To be able to get those bonus points where you can. So.
Yeah. Well, we certainly want to thank you for coming by tonight, and we want to wish you good luck the rest of the way here, and hope everybody stays healthy as we move into that regional. First time, it's going to be new for everybody, and we hope we can come away with some national qualifiers and get back to the NCAAs like we have been over the last couple of years. So So good luck the rest of the way, and thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'd like to thank head wrestling coach Duane Ritter for coming by tonight. And please join me after the break, where we'll talk to junior co-captain Ben Mickhack.
We are celebrating the second annual Division III week, April 8th through 14th. The NCAA's largest division is home to more than 175,000 student athletes who dedicate themselves to rigorous academics, competitive athletics, and the opportunity to pursue other passions on and off campus. This special week is an opportunity for us to observe and celebrate the impact of our student athletes on our campus and in the surrounding community. During the week, this Division III member will be holding at least one activity highlighting academic achievement, athletic accomplishment, or campus and community involvement. We already conduct recognition programs and community service activities throughout the year, but Division III week is the perfect opportunity to build on these efforts. These types of activities will be happening on campuses across Division III, having a powerful impact on the division's efforts to tell this story across the nation. Look for more information about Division III week activities on this website, and please join us in celebrating our outstanding Division III student athletes.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is junior co-captain of the wrestling team, Ben Mickhack. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thanks. having me.
Return customer. You were here last year with us.
Yep, second year here.
What kinds of things have changed during the last year?
I
mean, you're still winning matches. You're still one of our top wrestlers. I mean, now you're a team leader, and certainly, you know. But what's gone on in the last year for you?
A lot of things are the same, but I would say the biggest change is coming in, starting the year as a captain and fulfilling that role, working with the guys and coach, and trying to be a leader and just keep doing my best.
Now, what's that like to be a leader or considered a captain as a junior? You know, most of you think your captains are all seniors, 4-year players. So what do you?
It's a little different this year because, well, last year became a captain halfway through, but now starting, technically an upperclassman, and like Coach was saying, we have a young team, so there's really no seniors on the team, so you're one of the older guys, even though junior, not a senior.
Right, so. And how do you fulfill your role? Are you a rah-rah guy? Are you a leader by example? I mean, what do you look at yourself as a?
I'm not the loudest guy in the room, but definitely do lead by example.
Right.
That's always been my biggest thing. It's just working hard, not talking too much, but sometimes Dan does.
Yeah.
Does a lot more
well, I mean, it's because it's such an it is an individual sport. You have to be the best you can be because you got to go out and wrestle one-on-one with someone else. So, do you think it's tougher to maybe be like a captain of a sport that's so individual, where you have to try and rally the guys around? You know, in a dual match, you need 10 guys to win, not just one guy. I mean, it's so how does that change the dynamic for you?
Well, it's difficult because there's so much individual factors. You're always worrying about your weight or winning your match or your strategy. But now the second half of the season that we're in now is that it's a lot of dual meets. So it is a lot more team-oriented this part of the season. So I guess just pushing guys that need extra help, focusing on them, and just basically anything I can get done to help the team win a dual meet.
Right.
Pretty much
now for you, consistency in training, because certainly you have to maintain a certain weight. Whatever you're wrestling at, you wrestle 133 for us.
Yeah.
I mean, your training regimen, I mean, you have to really be on top of it in order to, we were just talking before we went on the air about, your weight could fluctuate a pound here and there at different parts of the day. Can you feel the difference, even if it's just a pound? You say, oh, geez, I think I'm over. I have to, maybe do something to get myself to make weight. I mean, can you feel those kinds of changes going on?
Well, one thing with wrestling is it definitely gets you to learn a lot about your body and how that works, and everybody's different, and it fluctuates from weight class, lightweights to heavyweights. Heavyweights lose more weight easier just because they're bigger guys, but you can definitely feel the difference. If you lose 3-4 pounds in a practice, you'll definitely feel it, or waking up in the morning lighter than the previous day. So you can definitely tell, but the biggest time you notice is when you get close to weight and you start to fluctuate there. That's when you can really tell.
Now,
differences.
Now this year, Coach Ritter said that we got a lot of young guys, that are doing very well in our lineup, kind of filling in some spots that we had open, for graduations and guys that are hurt and stuff like that. How do you see the team overall coming together and some of those younger wrestlers maturing as we go towards our finals?
Well, I'd say from the beginning it was a little bit of a rocky start, just because everybody was young, and you don't really know what to expect, when you're freshmen. But now I would say with taking the trip to Florida and coming back winter session, a lot of team bonding.
Right.
And I'd say everybody's coming together real well now. We're starting to wrestle better. Guys are working together better. Really coming together. I think it's a good thing.
Now, different tournament format this year for the NCAA qualification. The ECWC is still a good in-season tournament because of the caliber of wrestlers that we have up and down our entire conference. What's your feeling going into a kind of a new? It's new for everybody, but
well, I like the change. I guess overall it gets more guys to nationals than the conference format.
Right.
The conference tournament this year a little bigger, about the same toughness of the tournament, but bigger bracket, I would say. And now with regionals, it's top 3, no wild cards. So I mean, top 3 go, you earn it.
Right, you don't have to.
And but still, we have one of the biggest regions. I think 18 teams. There's only one other region that's as big as us.
Yeah.
And that's ranked on, I guess, strength of the teams and where you are.
Now, what are you looking forward to? Because you'll see quite a few different wrestlers. I mean, we do wrestle teams from New England, but I mean, are you looking forward to facing someone that maybe you haven't seen, heard about, or anything like that? I mean, the challenge, is that a challenge yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I never really think too much into who I'm wrestling. I think it's better just to go out there and just wrestle your strategy.
Right.
But there are some good schools in the New England Conference. You can't underestimate anybody over there, but also Ithaca and Cortland is with us now.
Right.
So Brockport, definitely some tough schools, but once again, they take top 3.
Right.
So still a good chance to go. I should get a good seed, and it's my goal, so I'll get there.
Now, do you, Coach Ritter talks about strength of wrestling positions and stuff like that. I mean, where do you think you're the strongest? Are you good neutral? Are you good on the bottom, good on the top?
I'm not the best on top, but strength-wise, I usually get out on bottom, and neutral, I'm pretty solid there.
Right.
So
take advantage of quickness and.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it on the feet most of the time.
Yeah. Well, we certainly want to thank you for coming by, and we want to wish you the best of health and luck as you go into the regional format. I mean, we're about 2 or 3 weeks away from the opportunity to qualify for nationals, so we certainly want to wish you good luck. And again, thanks for stopping by tonight.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank Ben Meekak for stopping by tonight. And after the break, I'll be joined by junior co-captain Dan Graff. Welcome back to the show. Joining me now is junior co-captain of the wrestling team, Dan Graff. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, this year I'm a junior. Me and Ben were appointed captains last year, halfway through our sophomore year, so that was definitely honorable. Coming in this year, we lost some upperclassmen, but so we're kind of like the seniors of the team, even though we really don't have any seniors. We definitely got a lot of recruits, a lot of good freshmen that are they're sticking around. Yeah. So I mean, me personally this year, I've had some setbacks, missed some competitions due to some injuries and whatnot, but going full force, healthy now, getting ready for the end of the season.
How, because of course you're been one of our starters for 3 years, you've been in the middle of the action. I mean, how much does it affect you when you can't wrestle?
It's frustrating. It definitely is. You just gotta know mentally that it is a very long season. It's longer than most of the sports here. Right. It's almost like 6 months with the preseason, and it's frustrating. But I get over it knowing the fact that it's not the most important tournament is our qualifier for nationals, and that's the biggest thing. So. Right,
and now coming back during your rehab process, I mean, what kinds of things are you paying attention to?
Physically, it's just very important to eat the right things, stretch before and after practice, and also doing those extra workouts, those runs, to stay in better shape. It's important, to get over the, athletic office and, see them for the types of, treatments such as ice and heating and whatnot.
Right. Now they, running, I guess my own, you do a lot of running to keep yourself cardio, because, people don't think 7 minutes is not a long time.
Right.
But you really do need to have that endurance to be able to.
Right.
Just because a lot of times most matches aren't over in 30 seconds with a pin or something like that. You really do wrestle the full 7 minutes. So, how does that play into or factor into how much you actually really need to do?
Right. Well, college is definitely different. It's definitely a longer match, 7 minutes instead of 6, and you're gonna have battles out there where you're dying, and definitely I would have to say, doing the extra workouts, the extra runs, the extra cardio really helps. But we do enough of that in practice, hard drilling and live sessions. But doing the extra workouts really helps that, that cardio and that stamina.
Right. Now we asked Ben what kind of a leader he was, because of course you're in the same situation now. You tend to be a little more vocal, a little more.
Yeah, I'd say so. Ben definitely leads an example with the most wins in the conference and the team, and he's having a good year. And I guess when we both were appointed last year, I tended to take over that role of being a little more vocal, running some warm-ups, but we make it work together.
Now, right, I was just going to say, the two of you working together, you came in together, you obviously feel comfortable with each other and how each one likes to lead. So how do you guys formulate a strategy at different times during the season when, say, maybe you need somebody to lean on somebody a little bit more than others?
Well, that's the thing. We'll definitely discuss, who on the the starting roster is slacking, who's really pulling it together, and it's kind of like he's a lightweight and I'm midweight, middleweight, and so he takes care of some of the guys down there around his weight classes, and I try to take care of the bigger guys.
Right.
Motivate them and take them aside and work on things.
Right. Now, when you're practicing and drilling, what they do, guys your own weight, do you wrestle? Do you go? Maybe a 49-pound guy might come up and drill with you. Or 65-pounder might come down your way, or. Oh,
that's the funny thing. Me and Ben actually work out a lot in practice, and we're about 3 weight classes apart, and that's because he's good enough, and so I use his speed, but I'm a little bit stronger. So we definitely have to change up our partners. So I'll go down to even 33, 41-pounders and work out with them, and as high as 74, 84.
Now, does that allow you to? Just thinking about it, to be able to. Where Ben might think he might learn a little bit about a stronger opponent, where he might be able to use some of his leverage and his own quickness against someone who might be in that. So I could see where you might be able to get something from each.
Right. Well, it helps him out because I'm a little bit bigger and stronger, so he's getting stronger in that aspect.
Right.
But working with someone that's smaller and quicker helps me out because I'm getting quicker against the bigger guys that I'll be wrestling.
Right.
But you definitely need to change it up each day, and so if I go with someone smaller and faster, the next day I have to go with somebody who's bigger and stronger.
That's actually I can see where that would help the both of you and throughout the lineup. Bigger guys and smaller guys.
Right.
Now the regional tournament is approaching.
Yes.
Certainly we're in one of the bigger regions for the NCAAs. What kinds of things are you looking forward to?
It's definitely a change this year. For the last 2 seasons that I've been here, the conference, it's been kind of, politics with the whole wild card situation, and I was pretty close to that last year. And now I like the idea of this region because gives you a better opportunity to go to nationals, and that's the ultimate goal here. And it's definitely going to be more opponents. But you have a better opportunity to go. I feel like at my weight class, there's definitely a handful of guys, all that I've seen, or even seen them wrestle before.
Right. How important it is to know or see some of the wrestlers beforehand, or?
I'd say it's pretty important, to know some of their strategies and their key points. But that's like another thing. Just try not to really worry about it, and stick with your own strategy.
The way you like to wrestle.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we certainly want to wish you good luck, and we want to thank you for coming by tonight. And as the NCAAs, we hope you can get there. Or certainly, last year, like you said, you were right there, and this year, hopefully, you can. We'd like to see you go. So
Definitely.
hopefully you'll get there, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming by. I'd like to thank both Ben and Dan for coming by tonight, and also Coach Duane Ritter of the wrestling program. And we'd like to remind you, as always, you can get all the highlights and results and scores on www.oneonaathletics.com, and certainly like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time on Inside Red Dragon Sports.